Not when a believer raises their hands to ask Allah for something. The first and most important foundation is to truly believe that Allah is listening. This belief is not just a statement spoken by the tongue. It is a deep certainty planted firmly in the heart. Allah hears every whisper, every tear, every silent thought that never even reaches the lips. Sometimes people feel alone with their worries, thinking no one understands their pain or their desires. Yet Allah knows what rests inside the heart, not even before a person turns it into words. When you make dua, you are speaking to the one who created you, understands you completely, and cares for you more than anyone else ever could. True belief transforms the way a person asks. Instead of feeling doubtful or hesitant, the believer approaches Allah with confidence and hope. Doubt weakens dua, while certainty strengthens it. When someone raises their hands while secretly thinking their prayer will not be answered, their heart becomes divided. Not Allah loves when His servant calls upon Him with full conviction, trusting that every supplication is heard and recorded. Even when the response is not immediate, belief keeps the heart calm because the servant knows Allah's wisdom is greater than human understanding. Many people measure acceptance only through quick results, but belief in Allah means understanding that listening does not always mean instant giving. A child may ask for something harmful without realizing it, and a loving parent not delays or replaces that request for the child's benefit. Similarly, Allah listens to every dua and responds in ways that protect, guide, and benefit the believer in both this life and the next. Sometimes Allah grants exactly what is asked. Sometimes He delays it to strengthen patience and faith. And sometimes He gives something far better than what the servant imagined. Believing Allah is listening also removes the feeling of embarrassment in asking. Humans may feel shy repeating their needs to, not others, fearing judgment or rejection. But Allah never becomes tired of hearing His servant. In fact, Allah loves when a believer continuously turns back to Him. Repeating the same dua again and again is not a sign of desperation, it is a sign of dependence upon Allah. Every repeated request shows humility, acknowledging that all power belongs to Him alone. This belief brings comfort during hardship. When life becomes difficult and doors seem closed, knowing that Allah hears every plea gives, not strength to continue. Even tears shed alone at night are seen by Allah. Every moment of pain expressed through dua becomes an act of worship. The believer understands that no sincere call to Allah is ever wasted. Even if the outcome is unseen, the spiritual reward, peace of heart, and closeness to Allah are already forms of acceptance. Belief also encourages honesty in dua. Since Allah knows the hidden thoughts and struggles of His servants, there is no need for formal or complicated words. Not speak naturally, openly, and sincerely. Admit fears, hopes, weaknesses, and dreams. Allah listens to every language, every emotion, and every unspoken feeling. A sincere whisper made with belief can carry more weight than long speeches spoken without presence of heart. When a person truly believes Allah is listening, dua becomes more than a request, it becomes a connection. The heart softens, reliance increases, and faith grows stronger. The believer begins to turn to Allah not only in moments of not crisis, but also in times of ease, gratitude, happiness, and success. This continuous awareness that Allah hears every call builds a relationship filled with trust, hope, and spiritual closeness, allowing the believer to live with confidence that they are never unheard, never forgotten, and never alone in their journey. When asking Allah for something, sincerity is the soul of dua. A sincere heart turns ordinary words into powerful worship. Ikhlas means that a person asks Allah purely for His sake, without showing off, without trying to impress others, and without seeking recognition from people. Dua is a private conversation between the servant and the Creator, and its strength lies in honesty. Allah does not look at beautiful language or perfect expressions, He looks at the condition of the heart. A simple request made with true sincerity can carry more value than long, elaborate supplications spoken without genuine feeling. Sincerity begins when a person realizes that only Allah has the power to grant what they seek. Many people rely heavily on worldly means, forgetting that every outcome ultimately comes from Allah alone. When the heart recognizes this truth, dependence shifts away from creation toward the Creator. The believer asks Allah knowing that no human being, no status, and no material resource can replace divine help. This awareness removes pride and fills the heart with humility. A sincere dua comes from vulnerability. Instead of pretending to be strong, the not-believer admits weakness before Allah. They acknowledge their mistakes, shortcomings, fears, and needs openly. Allah loves when His servant humbles themselves and turns to Him with honesty. There is no need to hide emotions or struggles because Allah already knows what lies within. Speaking sincerely allows the heart to release burdens and strengthen spiritual connection. Ikhlas also means asking Allah consistently, not only during hardship. Many people remember Allah intensely when facing not problems but become distant once relief arrives. True sincerity shows itself when a person calls upon Allah in ease just as much as in difficulty. Gratitude, praise, and remembrance become regular habits, proving that the relationship with Allah is not based only on need, but on love and devotion. Another aspect of sincerity is purity of intention. Sometimes people make dua with mixed motives, hoping for worldly praise, success for pride, or blessings to compete with others. Sincere dua focuses not on seeking goodness that brings one closer to Allah and benefits both this life and the hereafter. When intentions are pure, the heart feels peaceful, regardless of how or when the answer arrives. Sincerity also requires presence of heart. Dua should not be rushed or spoken mechanically. When words come from a distracted mind, their impact weakens. Taking a moment to reflect, concentrating on the meaning of what is being asked, and feeling the need deeply makes dua more meaningful. Even short, not supplications become powerful when spoken with awareness and reflection. Private supplication strengthens sincerity. Making dua when no one is watching protects it from showing off. The quiet moments of the night, when distractions fade and the world becomes silent, often allow sincerity to flourish. In those moments, the believer speaks freely, knowing that Allah alone hears and understands. Tears shed in private are among the most sincere forms of worship because they arise purely for Allah. Not sincerity also means accepting Allah's response with trust. A sincere believer does not worship Allah conditionally. They do not say they will only remain devoted if their specific request is fulfilled exactly as desired. Instead, they continue making dua with hope while trusting Allah's wisdom. This attitude reflects genuine faith rather than transactional worship. When sincerity fills the heart, dua becomes transformative. It softens arrogance, strengthens humility, and deepens reliance upon not Allah. The believer begins to feel closeness to Allah not only through receiving blessings but through the act of asking itself. Every sincere dua becomes an expression of servitude, love, and faith, drawing the servant nearer to Allah while purifying intentions and strengthening spiritual awareness. Choosing the best times for dua reflects a believer's eagerness to connect with Allah and increases the likelihood of acceptance. While Allah hears supplications at all moments, certain times carry not special spiritual blessings when the doors of mercy are more open. Understanding and valuing these moments allows a believer to approach Allah with greater awareness, discipline, and hope. These blessed times are opportunities gifted by Allah so that His servants can draw closer to Him and ask for their needs when hearts are more focused and receptive. One of the most powerful moments for dua is immediately after the obligatory prayers. Prayer itself is a direct connection with Allah, and the heart is already softened through remembrance, recitation, and submission. After completing salah, the believer remains spiritually engaged, making it an ideal time to raise hands and ask Allah for guidance, forgiveness, and personal needs. The calmness that follows prayer allows sincerity to grow, making supplication more heartfelt. The last third of the night holds extraordinary importance for those seeking closeness to Allah. During tahajjud, when most of the world sleeps, a believer rises, not solely to worship and call upon Allah. This act demonstrates sacrifice, devotion, and deep faith. In the quiet darkness of night, distractions fade and the heart becomes fully present. Supplications made at this time carry a unique intimacy because they are offered purely for Allah, without worldly interruption. The stillness of the night helps the believer reflect honestly, allowing emotions, hopes, and struggles to be expressed sincerely. Another blessed moment occurs between the Adhan and Iqamah. This short period before the congregation begins prayer is highly valued because it combines anticipation with remembrance. The call to prayer reminds believers of Allah's greatness, preparing their hearts spiritually. Making dua during this time shows readiness to respond to Allah's invitation while also seeking His mercy. Even a brief supplication during these minutes can carry immense reward. Fridays also hold special significance for acceptance of dua. Within this blessed day exists not a period during which supplications are not rejected. Believers often increase remembrance, send blessings upon the Prophet, and dedicate extra moments to making heartfelt requests. Friday encourages reflection, gratitude, and renewal of faith, making it an ideal day to seek Allah's help for personal struggles and future aspirations. Dua made while fasting carries great spiritual power. Fasting weakens physical desires and strengthens spiritual awareness, creating humility within the heart. A not fasting person experiences dependence upon Allah, recognizing human weakness and divine provision. Moments close to breaking the fast are especially meaningful because patience, sacrifice, and worship come together. In that state of need and gratitude, the believer's supplication becomes deeply sincere. Traveling is another time when dua is especially accepted. When a person leaves familiar surroundings and enters uncertainty, reliance upon Allah naturally increases. Travel reminds individuals not of their vulnerability and need for protection, guidance, and ease. Supplications made during journeys reflect genuine dependence upon Allah's care and mercy. Recognizing these blessed times encourages consistency in worship. Instead of making dua only when problems arise, the believer learns to organize life around moments of spiritual opportunity. Preparing for these times nurtures discipline, mindfulness, and intentional worship. Even small daily routines, pausing after prayer, waking briefly, not at night, or making dua before breaking a fast gradually strengthen faith and connection with Allah. These special moments are not meant to limit dua, but to enhance it. They remind believers that Allah continuously provides opportunities to be heard. Taking advantage of these times shows gratitude for divine generosity and demonstrates a sincere desire to seek Allah's help with awareness, humility, and hope. Each blessed moment becomes a doorway through which the believer approaches Allah with not renewed faith, deeper reflection, and greater spiritual presence. Patience is one of the greatest qualities a believer must develop when asking Allah for something they deeply desire. Many people make dua with strong hope, but when the answer does not appear quickly, frustration begins to grow. Human nature often seeks immediate results, yet divine wisdom operates beyond human timing. Learning to wait with trust is itself an act of worship. When a believer continues making dua without losing, not hope, they demonstrate faith not only in Allah's power, but also in His perfect knowledge of what is best. Allah responds to every sincere supplication, but the response may not always come in the way a person expects. Sometimes Allah grants exactly what is requested without delay, showing His mercy and generosity. At other times, the answer is postponed because the believer is not yet ready for what they are asking. A blessing received too early could become a burden instead of a benefit. Not through delay. Allah prepares the servant emotionally, spiritually, or even circumstantially so that the blessing arrives at the most beneficial moment. There are also occasions when Allah replaces the requested matter with something better. A person may ask for a specific opportunity, relationship, or outcome, believing it to be the source of happiness, while Allah knows unseen realities. What appears desirable may carry hidden harm, and what feels like disappointment may actually be not protection. Patience allows the believer to accept that Allah's choices are based on wisdom beyond human understanding. One of the greatest dangers in dua is rushing. The Prophet taught that a person's supplication continues to be accepted as long as they do not become impatient and say their dua was not answered. Such statements weaken faith because they assume that silence equals rejection. In reality, every dua is heard and recorded. Even when visible results are delayed, unseen rewards are not being granted. Sins may be forgiven, hardships removed, or blessings reserved for the hereafter. Patience transforms waiting into spiritual growth. During the period between asking and receiving, the believer learns reliance upon Allah. Repeatedly turning back to Allah strengthens faith and builds consistency in worship. What begins as a request for something worldly often becomes a journey toward deeper closeness with Allah. The believer realizes that the process of making dua itself, not peace, comfort, and guidance. Patience also protects the heart from despair. Life includes moments when doors seem closed and efforts appear unsuccessful. Without patience, disappointment can lead to hopelessness or loss of motivation. With patience, however, the believer understands that delays are not signs of abandonment. Allah never ignores sincere servants. Every moment of waiting carries meaning, even when its purpose is not immediately clear. Trusting Allah's timing requires humility. Not humans see only the present moment, while Allah knows the past, present, and future together. What feels urgent to a person may not align with what is truly beneficial. Patience allows the believer to surrender control while continuing to hope. Instead of demanding immediate outcomes, the heart learns to say that Allah's plan is better than personal desire. During periods of waiting, maintaining gratitude and continued worship strengthens patience. A believer remembers previous blessings and not recognizes that Allah has always provided at the right time. Reflecting on past experiences where difficulties eventually turned into ease builds confidence that current delays also carry hidden mercy. Patience in dua does not mean passivity or loss of hope. Rather, it means continuing to ask Allah with certainty while remaining content with His decree. The believer balances effort, prayer, and trust, understanding that every moment of sincere waiting is seen by Allah and rewarded. Through not patience, the heart becomes stronger, faith becomes deeper, and reliance upon Allah becomes more complete, allowing the believer to remain hopeful even when answers unfold slowly according to divine wisdom. Dua is a powerful act of worship, but Islam teaches that supplication must be accompanied by effort. Asking Allah for something while remaining inactive contradicts the balance between reliance and responsibility. Allah has created a world based on causes and actions, and believers are not encouraged to strive toward their goals while placing their trust in Him. This balance between effort and reliance is known as Tawakkul, where a person works sincerely while recognizing that the final outcome always rests in Allah's hands. Many people misunderstand reliance upon Allah as simply waiting for miracles without taking steps forward. True faith does not promote laziness or avoidance of responsibility. When a believer asks Allah for success, guidance, provision, or relief, they must not also pursue lawful means that lead toward that goal. Someone asking Allah for knowledge must study and seek learning. A person praying for financial stability must work honestly and manage resources wisely. Effort demonstrates sincerity because it shows that the believer values the blessing they are requesting. The famous teaching about tying the camel reflects this principle perfectly. A man once asked whether he should leave his camel untied and rely on Allah for protection. The response was, "Not clear. Tie the camel first, then place trust in Allah." This lesson highlights that action and reliance are not opposites but partners. Effort represents obedience, while trust represents faith. Together they create a complete approach to achieving goals while maintaining spiritual awareness. Combining dua with action also strengthens motivation. When a person actively works toward what they are asking for, their supplication becomes more focused and meaningful. Effort transforms hope into, not progress. Each step taken becomes part of worship because the believer intends to please Allah through striving. Even challenges faced along the journey become opportunities for patience, learning, and growth. Effort also protects the heart from disappointment. When results are delayed, the believer knows they have fulfilled their responsibility by trying sincerely. This awareness brings peace because the outcome is left to Allah after sincere striving. Success is no longer defined only by not achieving a specific result, but by fulfilling one's duty with honesty and dedication. Another important aspect of combining dua with action is personal development. Sometimes Allah delays granting a request because the believer must grow stronger, wiser, or more prepared. The journey of effort shapes character, builds resilience, and increases gratitude. A blessing achieved through struggle often carries deeper appreciation than one received instantly. Through effort, the believer becomes ready, not to handle the responsibility that comes with answered prayers. Action also reflects gratitude for the abilities Allah has already given. Intelligence, health, time, and opportunities are blessings meant to be used. Ignoring these gifts while continuously asking for more contradicts the spirit of gratitude. When a believer uses available resources responsibly, they demonstrate appreciation for Allah's favors, which in turn attracts further blessings. At times, effort may not immediately lead to not visible success, but every sincere attempt remains valuable in the sight of Allah. Even when outcomes differ from expectations, the believer gains experience, strength, and spiritual reward. Failures become lessons rather than defeats, and each attempt becomes part of the divine plan guiding the believer towards something better. Combining dua with action nurtures balance in life. The believer avoids arrogance because success is attributed to Allah, yet avoids helplessness because effort remains. Not essential. This harmony creates confidence without pride and humility without weakness. The heart remains connected to Allah while the hands remain active in striving toward improvement, allowing faith and effort to move together as expressions of devotion and trust. Gratitude plays a powerful role in the acceptance of dua and the arrival of blessings. When a believer asks Allah for something, expressing thankfulness before and after receiving it reflects deep faith and trust in Allah's. Not generosity. Gratitude is not limited to moments when desires are fulfilled. It is a continuous state of the heart that recognizes Allah's mercy in every situation. A thankful believer understands that countless blessings already exist in their life, even while they continue to ask for more. Thanking Allah before a dua is fulfilled demonstrates certainty that Allah will respond in the best way. Instead of waiting for results to show appreciation, the believer thanks Allah out of faith in His, not wisdom and kindness. This attitude transforms dua from a desperate request into an act of hopeful worship. Gratitude before receiving shows reliance upon Allah's promise and removes anxiety about outcomes. The heart becomes peaceful because it trusts that whatever Allah chooses will carry goodness. Gratitude also shifts focus from what is missing to what is already present. Many people become overwhelmed by unfulfilled desires, forgetting the blessings surrounding them daily. Health, family, not guidance, opportunities, and even the ability to make dua itself are signs of Allah's favor. Recognizing these gifts softens the heart and prevents dissatisfaction. When gratitude grows, the believer feels content while still striving for improvement and making sincere supplications. Allah promises that gratitude increases blessings. When a believer consistently thanks Allah, doors open in unexpected ways. Sometimes the blessing requested arrives, and sometimes entirely new opportunities appear. Not that were never imagined. Gratitude attracts barakah because it reflects humility and acknowledgement of Allah's generosity. A thankful servant recognizes that every success comes from Allah rather than personal ability alone. Expressing gratitude after receiving a blessing strengthens the relationship between the servant and Allah. Instead of forgetting Allah once a need is fulfilled, the believer continues remembering Him through praise, prayer, charity, and obedience. This consistency protects, not blessings from turning into trials. Many people lose spiritual connection after achieving what they desired. But true gratitude keeps the heart attached to Allah, even in moments of comfort and success. Gratitude is not only expressed through words, but also through actions. Using blessings in ways that please Allah is a powerful form of thankfulness. Wealth can be shared through charity. Knowledge can be used to benefit others, and opportunities can be approached with integrity and kindness. When blessings are used responsibly, they become sources of ongoing reward and spiritual growth. Even during hardship, gratitude remains meaningful. A believer may face delays, challenges, or unanswered desires, yet still finds reasons to thank Allah. Gratitude in difficulty reflects strong faith because it recognizes hidden wisdom behind every situation. Trials often bring lessons, purification, and closeness to Allah that might not occur during ease. Thanking Allah during hardship strengthens, not patience, and transforms struggles into acts of worship. Gratitude also protects the heart from envy and comparison. When a believer appreciates their own blessings, they become less focused on what others possess. Contentment replaces jealousy, and peace replaces restlessness. The believer learns that Allah distributes blessings uniquely according to individual needs and journeys. Maintaining gratitude before and after making dua nurtures a positive spiritual mindset. Instead of viewing life not through disappointment, the believer sees continuous mercy unfolding. Each moment becomes an opportunity to praise Allah, whether through receiving, waiting, or learning. Gratitude turns ordinary experiences into worship and deepens awareness of Allah's presence, allowing the believer to live with humility, hope, and appreciation for every blessing granted or withheld according to divine wisdom.